Welcome to the second video on the Caro-Kann. We had an introductory video before, and this time we're gonna talk about the advanced variation. Now, a quick recap, what is the Caro-Kann? It happens after e4, c6. And this is already considered the Caro-Kann, and today we're gonna look at d4, d5, and e5. This is called the advanced variation for a reason, because white advances the pawn. This is the main position where white has a choice. If they advance the pawn, we enter the advanced variation. This is going to be the main position for today's video. And already in this position, we have a choice to make. And I'm going to start by showing you the idea of the main line. Now, it's not going to be the line that I recommend, but it's good to know about why it's the main line. And that is bishop f5. And the reason this is the main line is because you get your bishop out of the pawn chain, and you want to do so as quickly as possible. That's the main reason. And for that, we need to look at the French event. I already told you something about this in my introductory video, but if we go look at the French defense, which is this variation, if they play the advance, we are going to go for c5, and the line goes on, but the main problem here is our bishop is blocked in. We are trying to achieve that same thing, but with our bishop here. If we get that, we've just got an improved French defense, and the French defense already is a very solid variation, so yeah, that's gonna be a win for us. And that's why here, sorry, spoiler alert, this is the main move. I'm not gonna go into that because it's really theoretical, so I think from a practical perspective, this is really tough to learn, these lines. Way easier is to go for the immediate c5. And basically it's still the same idea. We're still trying to get our bishop out one of these squares. We're later going to play e6 and either recapture this pawn or defend this pawn if it hasn't been captured. Now, the first thing you can obviously ask is, okay, what if they capture the pawn? And this is actually the main move here. And it's the most theoretical. A lot of people are recommending knight b6 here, just attacking this pawn and dealing with this pawn later, and still trying to get this bishop out. So they're going something like this, and then get the bishop out, and then later trying to gain back one of these pawns. It is going to be effective at the lower levels, but in my opinion, it isn't really that sound. So I'm recommending e6 here. And this is one of the variations where we actually still block in our bishop. But compared to the French defense they have taken here, which in the French defense often doesn't happen. And if we can win that pawn back, or this pawn in some variations, we're actually completely fine. So white is trying to hold on to the pawn, we're going to win it back. And this is not played often. In my experience, almost no one takes on c5 already. So, but I just want to show you this because it is the most critical, so it's good to know what to do. So the main thing here is white can defend with the bishop. They can also defend with the pawn, but it transposes into the same thing, basically. So they can defend this pawn with the bishop, and yeah, it's just defended now. We're going to go knight d7, and this looks like an awkward move, but the idea is obvious. We just want to win that pawn back. White is not going to let us, and they're going to pin our knight. So if we take here, thinking, okay, we are defended, we're not, this bishop is here, and we can't take here because our knight is pinned, so we've just lost a piece. So that's not something we can do. Instead of that, we are just gonna play knight d7. And this looks really slow, but our idea is to go knight f5 and basically attack the defender of this pawn. So it's, like I said, a little slow, but white is gonna have a lot of trouble to defend both pawns, as we will see. Now here, white can do a couple of things. Usually they are just gonna bring the knight out. And here you're gonna see our idea. We're just gonna attack that bishop. Now here, white can again do two things. And I'm gonna show you why this move, it's one of the most played moves, but it actually isn't the best. And I'm gonna show you why. The reason is, they are gonna say, okay, if you take the bishop now, we can just take back with the queen and the pawns are still defended. That's the idea behind this move. But we are gonna not go into that. We're gonna play queen a5 check. Now we're attacking the bishop as well as the check, so the only move they have to stay in the game is knight c3, defending the bishop and blocking our check. So that's the main thing. And here we're actually just gonna attack the bishop. And white really doesn't have a choice. They need to take here. If they don't, we are just gonna break up this pin and this pawn is gonna be captured, especially because the queen is attacking it now as well. So that's the main thing. So they're gonna take and we're gonna take back. And now again, already they have a problem with this this pawn here. So here there's two ways they can deal with this. A3 is an interesting idea, but it doesn't really work. We can just take here. And again, they have a choice. They can take back with the knight or the queen. If they take back with the queen, again, multiple things we can do. Easiest is just to take here. And yeah, we are attacking the queen. So, by the way, this doesn't work. It looks like maybe it's a counterattack, but after we take the queen, if they take our queen, we take the knight with check and we're winning the rook as well. So a nice little trap for you there, if they go into that. So basically they need to move their queen, and then afterwards we need to deal with this. So another thing we can do here, if you'd like that, is to just go for this. And this endgame is actually quite a good endgame for black. We have the bishop pair, white doesn't. We have good control over the center. This pawn is more of a weakness than a strength for white. So this is actually a good endgame for us. So that's what we like to go into. Now here they can also take with the knight. That's another variation. And here it's actually quite tricky because queen can take here. But now after this, this becomes really tricky. And this is a variation you can actually play because after this, this, and this, we're again attacking the rook if the king moves, and we go into this. We've actually got two pieces for the queen. This is theoretically a draw, but I wouldn't go into this. So instead here, instead of taking this, you can also take with the queen, but I don't recommend that. The best move actually here is to go queen c7, basically delaying winning the pawn. We are now attacking two pawns and they can't really defend both, so we're gonna win one regardless. They can do a lot of things here. Usually they're gonna defend this pawn, saying, okay, we're defending that now. And we're just gonna go here with check. And yeah, the engine already says this is about -1. So very good for black, actually. They need to move the knight back. And yeah, the line goes on here. But again, we have two center pawns. They have no center pawns anymore. We've won our pawn back, so materials even. And yeah, this is just completely winning. So this is something you should know about. And basically going all the way back, that's why bishop d4 isn't best. Now, the best approach here for white is to go b4. And that's also quite an obvious move, just saying, okay, this pawn is defended by a pawn now. So if we take this bishop here, which is actually the move we are gonna play, but let's say they take back, we can't take this pawn here. But it comes with a drawback for white as well, because, well, one thing to see is these pawns are isolated and doubled. So even though white technically is up a pawn, it's not really noticeable, and we have great compensation for that as well. And here we're gonna actually strike at the pawns. Now, if there is a pawn chain, in this case it's a pawn chain of two pawns, it's usually the best idea to attack the base of the pawn chain, which is b4 in this instance. Because let's say they don't notice it and they're just gonna castle. We're gonna take this, and now this pawn is weak as well. So if you can win the base of the pawn chain, the whole pawn chain collapses usually. So castling isn't really something they should be doing here. Instead, yeah, actually there is just one move. Because if they take here, just another little trap for you, we can take with the queen, and this bishop is just is dropping. In this case, they can't defend with the knight like they usually would, because there's no pawn here, so the knight is not defended, so we can just take the knight. So that's a little trap for you there. So I showed you castling, I showed you they can't really take, so the only thing they can do is play c3. And okay, they've defended now, and they're basically out of the woods, but still, we're gonna play against this weakness here. We're just gonna develop our bishop, and actually it's quite normal development here. They can now castle, we can castle. Usually they go knight bd2, and watch what happens with the evil bar. Already it's an advantage for black. And this is the most natural move. This is, in my opinion, the most played move in this position, even though, like I said before, this is so deep into theory. You're not going to see this. I've never seen this in a game, actually. this deep into the line. But it is important to know the ideas behind it, because it can come up in other positions as well. But already this is an advantage for black, like the engine shows. Queen c7 is the main idea here. We are now putting some more pressure here, and it's really difficult for them to keep all the pawns basically. And if we look carefully, we can still have a lot of pressure on the pawns. We have some nice pawn breaks here. And meanwhile, white doesn't really have a good plan. Their main pawn breaks are probably c4 and e4. But both come with drawbacks, like c4 drops b4, for instance. And e4 here is probably an alright move, although the engine says already it's -1. So goes to show you can probably just take here, and no, that's not even best. What does the engine say? Like I showed you, okay, take here first. Yeah, that's probably best. So again, you don't really need to know all the moves here. You just need to know the basic ideas. And yeah, these pawns are weak, so if you ever come into this position, it's definitely going to be easier for black to play than for white, and you're probably going to win your games. So let's see. They can obviously take here with the bishop. We're just going to take back. Nothing wrong here. What else can they do? Yeah, nothing much really. So that's just all. If they take here, which is usually what they're going to play, we're just going to take back. Again, we have the bishop pair. They have weak pawns. White is up a pawn, but black is just better. The engine shows it as well. So that's all you need to know about when they take on c4. But like I said, that's not what they usually do. So now comes the main stuff, and the reason why I recommend this move. The most played move here is c3. And that's not a bad move, it's just not the most critical. Just defending the pawn that way. Now, it is a mistake to take here. It can transpose into the lines I'm going to show, but usually it's best to play knight c6, just putting some more pressure there. Now in this variation, if they take here, we can win our pawn back immediately. It's a different pawn, but this is actually good for us, because we have 2 center pawns, they have no center pawns, and their pawns are doubled as well. So let's just say they're playing here. We can just take, and already if they take back, we can control the full center, and we're also threatening to win another pawn. So yeah, that's just something they can do. So after this, taking is never an option for white really. So usually they're gonna defend with the knight. And there's 2 things you can do. I don't recommend this move, but I'm gonna show you it anyways. Because here, funnily enough, they can actually take. And it looks like they can't, right? Because it looks like, okay, you're just winning this pawn because the knight is pinned. It is pinned, but not really. Because if they take here, and this is actually a trap you can play from the white side, you think you're winning the queen, but after bishop e5 check, there's no way to block the check other than to give up your queen. They are going to take it with check even, you have to move your king. And now they can take back their bishop, but even better is to go for this check and win a rook. And it's a complete mess, they've just won all pieces. So that's not something we can do. So actually in this position, they can take here again. And yeah, that goes into the ideas of the most critical line. Now we could go there and still try to win it and etc. But once we've achieved the fact that they are not taking here, we shouldn't let them. So in this position, it's actually best to just take on d4. Now, again, there's multiple things they can do, but only one really works. Obviously, taking with the queen is just bad because it loses the queen. Taking with the knight is bad because it actually loses another pawn. So remember, we were also attacking that pawn, so they really can't do that. If they do so, you should be happy because you've just won a pawn. So the best move is to take with a pawn. And here comes the main idea. Like I showed you in the beginning, why this variation is considered an improved French defense. We can get our bishop out of the pawn chain. In this case, we're not going to f5, but to g4, just to pin the knight to the queen. And also attacking this. So let's say they play something random. We can probably take here, but by the way, we can't take here because there's a queen check here skewering. That's not something you can do, but easiest is to take here, and they're either gonna have to double their pawns to keep defense of this, or if they take with the queen, we are gonna take that pawn. So that's our threat basically in this position, and that's why the most played move is just bishop e3, because if we do this now, this pawn is still defended by the queen. We've just given up the bishop pair. That's not something we want to do. So we're not going to trade. We're just going to play e6. And it's going to be a slow game. But the main thing about this, and you've also seen that in the other variations, we're going to fight for d4. And that's the main thing in the Caro-Kann and actually in the French offense as well, especially in the advanced variation. d4. If you win the battle over d4, you're going to win the game. That's basically it. I have never seen a variation, and there probably are some where winning this is not completely crushing. So here, there's a couple of things white can do. Usually they just castle. And we're going to continue with knight e5. And our idea is to bring our knight here to put some more pressure here. So again, everything revolves around d4. Now, there's a couple of things they can do here. And usually they're just going to bring their knight out to c3. Because it's the most best square for white. For the knight, usually. But in this case, after this, actually the engine already shows we've equalized. If anything, black is a little bit better because the pressure on this pawn increases. Again, if they play something random, we can take here and we can actually win this pawn now because it's only defended by the queen and both our knights are attacking it. And it doesn't really matter. I'm looking at the engine and it's basically equal. It likes this a little bit better, but that's not much of a difference. But yeah, we're just winning a pawn, so that's not something white is going to play. Usually white is going to play bishop e3, just defending that pawn. And, you know, if we take this bishop, we do get the bishop pair, but actually white's center is really solid, so white has some compensation. So we're not going to take the bishop here. We're only going to take the bishop if you're forced to. So if they do something like, let's make a random move. It's not really random, by the way, but let's say they attack our bishop, and then, I don't know, we do something and they attack our knight. Now, when they have attacked our knight, we are going to take the bishop. So that's the main thing. Now, in this position, it's just bad for white, but in any position, when they attack our knight, only then we're going to take the bishop. So let's go all the way back. In this case, we are going to play bishop e7. That's why I said it's not really a random move. This is our main idea. And there's multiple things white can do here. So what do I want to show you? Yeah, a3 does just... I don't know why I have this in my line, actually. Probably some weird preparation I had. But the most critical move is just to attack our bishop here. And we're going to take the knight. And this might be counterintuitive, right? Because why would you give up the bishop pair? But in this case, it's clear, basically. Because we're still fighting for d4 and this knight was defending it. So it's one less defender and that just helps us. So in this position, white is usually gonna play... Oh, sorry, it's our move. We can play bishop g5. And there's some debate whether this is best in this position or after castling, but I'm gonna show you the main idea here. We are basically attacking here. So if they do something random, we can take the bishop. And after they take back, we take here with check. And we're winning this pawn as well. And it's a complete disaster for white. So that's our threat, basically. So they need to deal with that. So what they usually do... Sorry, they don't play that random move. But they're going to take our bishop. And we're going to take it. And you're already seeing, again in this position, black is better. And you're going to see that a lot. Like... It's so natural, such natural moves for white, and somehow black ends up in a better position. And the reason is pretty clear. We're putting a lot of pressure here. Knight h4 is an idea. Also, we're attacking this right now, so if they don't do anything, we can just win that pawn. So the best move here is to actually go back to defend that pawn and also maybe defend the king some more. And I like knight h4 here already. You can also play h5. The main thing here is they can try to save their bishop like this. But now you can play h5. And this is where the main debate comes. Because there is some advantage to having your rook here. Because in some variations you might want a rook lift. But yeah, we're just attacking the bishop now. And that's just bad for them. Let's see what the engine says here, actually. Yeah, they need to counterattack. And if you want to prevent this, because this gets quite messy, h5 immediately is is an idea, because now after, let's say they make a random move, now after this, there is no bishop g3, and there is no f4, and we're just gonna win that. And by the way, let's just make another random move. The reason we're playing this is, first of all, this just wins the bishop, but let's say they defended it. So let's make a less random move. So let's say they went here. We can actually take the bishop, and after they take, we can take this pawn, attacking the queen. So it comes with tempo as well, and again, we've won a pawn. It's -1. Like I said, if you win the battle over d4, you're gonna win the game. So that's the main idea here. There's just a lot of pressure. In some variations where the bishop moves, we're also threatening checkmate, so the bishop can't really move. Yeah, just really difficult for white to play, and we have easy plan. Now just to show you the other variation, we could consider castling here, and then after they make a move, usually they're gonna put our rook out, we go here. And the one advantage, and this is also part of the debate, is the rook is actually behind our bishop here. I've never really discovered a line where that's important, but I guess maybe in some variations you could take here to deflect and then take the rook or something. It doesn't work in this variation, but maybe in some lines it does. But the line goes basically the same, and again you can play h5 here. So the question is, do you want your king to be here if you're pushing your pawns? The engine says it's completely fine. So it's up to you what you like. Like in the other variation, just to go back to this, you have the option maybe to castle queenside, but that's dangerous as well. Like this file is open, so maybe you're gonna end up castling here anyway, or after some rook lift, you're maybe just gonna walk your king there. Yeah, this is the main idea. So yeah, so this is the most important line you need to know about. But just to go back, I want to show you some ideas that you need to be aware of. So something, I'm going to show you something from the white side first. They can also put their bishop on d3. And this is a little bit trickier to play. First thing you might think is, I can take here. And I already showed you this in another position, but that's something you can never do. It looks like the knight is pinned, so you know, if they take here, we take their queen, and that doesn't even work because of the same idea I showed you before. We have to block with our queen here. But let's say that did work. They are not going to take with the knight here, but they're going to play queen a4 check, and that's just winning in peace here. There's nothing we can do. We can block with the knight to save our knight, but that's just going to take our bishop and we're down in peace. So even though this looks like we can win this pawn, we can't. So be aware of that. Now another thing to show you, and I'm just going to show you some random moves because yeah, this is something that happens in a lot of variations, but there's no real theory to it. It's just something you need to know because it happens a lot. So let's say they castle, we put a piece out, they put our knight here. We're gonna bring our rook to c7, c8, sorry, this is also always a nice square for the rook. And let's say in some position they play a3. Now, we're gonna play knight a5. In a lot of these positions with a3, knight a5 is actually a good idea. And, well, actually I've just played some random moves where it isn't good, so let's just, let's see, make some more random moves, okay, let's do this. It's just to show you the main idea here. Actually, in this position, if they move the rook for some reason, this is the idea I want to show you. And I haven't showed a good line by any means, but in some other lines this happens a lot. So this is a trap you need to know about. We can actually take on a5 in these positions. And in this particular position, of course, it doesn't work because they have a check. But in most positions, it does work. So let's just say they don't have the check, right? If they take back, we're just going to win their knight. Back, and we've just won a pawn. So that's one of the main ideas you need to be aware about, which happens in a lot of positions. Now, another thing which happens in a lot of positions, and I'm going to go back a bit, and this mainly when they play the bishop here. After this, and let's say they castle, we can attack the bishop here. Now again, in this position, it is really best because they have a check here or a check here, and we just need to move the knight back. But in positions where there isn't, let's actually show you a more common position. So we play this, and let's say they go here or something. That's not actually our main idea. Let's say they go here. After we go here, we are attacking the bishop. And even though it just is a trade, right? Let's say this happens. It's just a trade of bishops, nothing really major. But if white is gonna be like, okay, I want to keep my bishop pair, which is gonna happen a lot, and this is why I like this trap so much. They're gonna move their bishop back, and actually we can put our knight here and just attack the rook. Now again, the engine is gonna show it doesn't work because they have some checks. So again, bishop e5 check. So you need to be, I'm just gonna show you this quickly. This usually happens later in the game where you have castled and things like that. But that's always an idea. They can't really move the rook anywhere. The queen is attacking the knight, but it's defended. So that's also an idea you need to be aware of. So yeah, let's actually go back. Yeah, I think that's all. I've showed you the main ideas in all these positions. Now there's a lot more to the Caro-Kann defense, obviously, and yeah, the lines go on and on and on. This is just a quick video to show you the main ideas. You definitely need to study some more if you're gonna go to the higher levels. But if you know these main ideas, you can probably come up with the best move in any position anyway. And yeah, this was the advanced variation. Next time, I haven't decided yet. I'm probably gonna talk about the exchange variation. So stay tuned for that. It's gonna be in the playlist as well. And for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.